All right, welcome back again to another one of these videos. I'm recording it right after my one about the fascism one, and I saw this and I said, well, let's see. There's so much democracy when billionaires buy a politician and monopolize any shred of competition. Okay, anyways, mood, but also not super relevant. We're gonna focus on what we got going on right here: capitalism or socialism. Which one is more democratic, apparently? And it's Dinesh D'Souza again. Amazing. Can't wait.
Why is socialism so popular?
Why?
Less than 10 years ago, you couldn't refer to socialism in a positive way and hope to have a career in American politics.
Yeah, thanks.
Socialism was referred to as the S word.
Yeah, thank God we got over that garbage about like fear mongering stuff. Thank you, Bernie Sanders.
Now it is affirmed either explicitly or implicitly by just about everyone on the left.
Shout out to the majority of young people who
And
like it.
amazingly, given socialism's record of failure,
What
the
record?
socialists seem to be gaining ground. Why? What makes socialism so attractive to so many? Socialism, according to its proponents, is more democratic and therefore more moral than
It
capitalism.
is. That's
Leftist
true.
filmmaker Michael Moore explains it for us. Democratic socialism means everyone has a seat at the table and everybody gets a slice of the pie.
That's true for democratic socialism, which would mean that workers own their businesses and the means of production. Yes, that's accurate. Although I should note that when he says that pretty much everyone on the left is socialist, Joe Biden is avowedly not, and he's the president. Kamala Harris is avowedly not, and she's the vice president. You'd be hard pressed to find many Democrats who call themselves socialist. AOC, Bernie, and like maybe Ilhan Omar, but they're not even socialists. Like you're not gonna find any socialists like elected Democratic officials, really.
The famed socialist writer Irving Howe wrote something similar in his 1982 autobiography. We believe that the democracy in our political life should also be extended deeply into economic life. The basic idea here is that socialism is vindicated through its
I like that people will literally tell him what their beliefs are, and he'll be like, "No, that's not what your beliefs are."
roots in popular consent. If a majority of people working through their elected representatives declares something to be a public entitlement, say free college or free healthcare, then they are justified in extracting resources from those who create wealth to pay for it.
That's not what that means when they say that, and I feel like he probably knows that's not what it means. I don't know for sure, but I assume he's probably aware of the context, and that is that when they say socialism means democracy and an economic life, that means companies are run by workers who democratically elect managers and leaders and things like that. That's what they're saying. Although taking money from the rich to make sure people get health care is a very valid and reasonable position because, people deserve health care and rich people don't really need all the money they're sitting
As
on.
Nathan Robinson argues in his book, Why You Should Be a Socialist,
Shout out to Nathan Robinson. Nathan Robinson is pretty cool.
moral imperative is to place the economy under the control of the people.
Yes.
Sounds good, at least superficially, until you dig a bit below the surface.
Worker cooperatives are more resilient. In the face of depression and recession, worker cooperatives have greater success rates than most corporations. When they run on larger scales, there's a worker co-op in Spain that's worth $10 billion, and worker co-ops also tend to have happier and higher happiness rating workers, if that makes sense. Like the workers are happier at worker co-ops as well, so they're pretty solid.
First, what direct control do the people really have over any government institution? What
In theory, the control that the people have over a government institution is via their elected officials
control do the British people have over the National Health
who they
Service?
elect.
What control do Americans have over the Department of Motor Vehicles or the US
Who
Post
you elect
Office?
that
The
runs it.
answer, of course, is none. Given its practical impossibility, genuine popular control over government institutions is a mirage. Second, what if 51% of Americans vote to confiscate the resources of a single person, say Bill Gates? Does
Mm.
that make it right? Under an authoritarian socialist government,
See, now here's where he's conflating these two ideas because it doesn't necessarily have to be an authoritarian socialist government. They're literally all just advocating for workers to run their companies. And he's taking this as a government controls everything thing, which is not what any of these people are advocating for from the sounds of their quotes that they used here. Um, when they say the people, they literally mean like the workers. Like that's why socialists and communists always talk about the working class and the workers.
a single dictator seizes the fruits of your labor. Everyone is against that. Under democratic socialism, a majority does. The end
That's not what it means. That's not what democratic socialism means.
result is the same. You've been robbed.
People being taxed so their money can provide for things to provide for workers is also not robbery because those people are making that money by exploiting and at the expense of the people who that money would be helping. Like a company, Jeff Bezos would not have as much money as he did right now if he had to pay all his workers fair wages and, they were able to unionize and things like that.
The fundamental
It wouldn't
problem with
happen.
democratic socialism, however, is its assumption that in a free market system, the economy is not under the control of the people. This is exactly
The economy is not under the control of the people in a free market in capitalism. What It's controlled by a couple of corporations. I mean, literally look at what's happening with the Wall Street bets thing. Like the people in air quotes, a couple million people or 100,000 people or I don't know how many, it's not super important, but they're trying to take on these corporations by like buying a bunch of stocks and stuff to manipulate the market in the way that corporations do, and they're getting shut down for it. Like the people don't control it, companies and corporations do.
the opposite of how things work. Let me explain. Each of us are not only citizens, we are also consumers. These are overlapping categories. Every citizen is a consumer, and every consumer is also a citizen. The consumer, like the citizen, is a voter. As citizens, we vote once every 2 or 4 years. As consumers, we vote many times a day. The citizen
Voting with your dollar is not really an accurate and effective way of doing anything because so many brands are bought by the same company. Like, you really don't have that much variety in terms of purchasing things. No company is really respectable and worth purchasing from in many ways. And also, many people don't have the option of voting with their dollar in the ways that this implies. Like, if you're poor, you don't have a choice where you go and what kind of food you buy and what companies you support. Like, this vote with your dollar thing only works in like a completely different world where all the companies are really different and there's so many different brands and they're not all owned by like the same three people and all this stuff, and that's just not the case. That doesn't happen.
votes with a ballot, which costs them nothing except the inconvenience of going to the polls. The
An
consumer
inconvenience that we could solve with mail-in ballots that you probably wouldn't support. But anyways,
votes with his money, which costs him a lot, all the time and effort he put in to earn that money. Only a fraction of citizens are eligible to vote at the ballot box, but every consumer votes in the marketplace, even felons, even children. Illegal aliens cannot vote for political candidates, but they too vote with their money. Moreover, citizens participate in a system of representative democracy. Their views are filtered through the politicians who represent them. Consumers, by contrast, vote in a system of direct democracy. If you prefer an Audi to
but it's not direct democracy though. Like, it's not just like, oh, we're just going to go out and we're just going to support the company. I'm really going to pick and choose. Like, there are so many things that people don't that are connected that people have no way of preventing from using. Like, you can't stop. Like, how are you going to vote with your dollar when it comes to like fossil fuel companies when you don't really, but maybe you don't have other there might not be other options in the power in your building, like, and like you got to choose a place to live, but they're all the same. Like you can't vote with your dollar this easily. It doesn't
To
happen.
Alexis or the Apple iPhone to the Samsung Galaxy, you don't have to elect some other guy to exercise these preferences. You do it directly yourself.
Because like think about the way that it would work if you did go out and support a company a bunch. Like take GameStop, right? Say that you go out and you buy a bunch of GameStop stuff and a bunch of people buy a bunch of GameStop stuff. You know what's going to happen is GameStop's still going to go bankrupt. Like there's not you don't have as much control also as you think because people buy each other out and it's what's available in your area and what you can afford, but like obviously what you can afford, but like what's available for you to actually access. Um, companies like squeezing each other out of business. Like there's so much stuff that you voting with your dollar, you one individual human being, you're not going to be able to change the way that these corporations are still pretty brutally like exploiting the environment and its workers and stuff. You can't vote that away with your
By
dollar.
paying for them. Here we see the secret of how those billionaires like Jeff Bezos got so rich. We
By exploiting the workers and treating them pretty terribly. Like if they spoke up about how they were being mistreated, they get fired. You mean like that?
made them rich. The inequality that socialists complain about is the result of popular mandate. Want fewer billionaires? Stop buying their stuff.
It's not that simple. The wealth kind of, even if like a bunch of people don't use, like Amazon's so big now. Like how are you gonna? It's not you. You can't just solve inequality like that. Like Amazon is everywhere,
Free markets work not through greed or exploitation, but by satisfying our wants. And the most successful
but it's not that straightforward. Like I'll have to find an article. I saw an article about this that I thought summed up the position, like phrased it much better than I'm able to on the spot. But it's it's not all about wants because they kind of influence what's like with commercials and advertising and just sheer force of like whatever of a will. They influence what's available and what's not and what you need and what you don't. Like look at like when you buy like an iPhone. This is not a great example, but it's the first one I can think of that doesn't take me a bunch of time while this is going. Is like when you have an iPhone and they get rid of the headphone jack and then they make you buy a whole nother thing like for $100 so that way you can use your earbuds still. Like it's like there's a lot of situations where they force you into doing certain things and like stuff like that. I know it's not the best example, but
entrepreneurs are those who anticipate our wants even before we have them. No one wrote Steve Jobs asking him to make a phone that took pictures, allowed people to text messages, and listen to music. He conceived it and built it before we knew we couldn't live without it. Market economies involve a level of popular participation and democratic consent that politics can only envy. We don't need to
wait,
extend democracy from the political to the economic sphere. We already have it.
but you don't, because if you like try and form like so many businesses get put out of business by big corporations. Like there's not much demand. It's pretty oligarchical. Like I remember Amazon made some company like some like it's like music or something. I don't remember. I remember that it was like furniture or something, but there was this company that was on the up and comer, and basically Amazon made a product that was exactly like theirs and sold it for less, so they went out of business, and then Amazon
And the
could get it.
moral
Like
ground
there's not much democracy involved when companies are so big that they can squash anything that comes in their way.
of free markets, just like that of our political system, is in the will of the people. In the latter case, a will expressed only on election day. In the former case, a will expressed deliberately, emphatically, constantly. We don't need socialism because we already have something more moral and more democratic. It's
More
called
moral,
capitalism.
more
I'm Dinesh
democratic.
D'Souza for Prager
It's
University.
literally not democratic though.
This video was made possible.
Let's check out who Fred and Joyce Lucas are. Um, computer security company Trident Data Systems. I'm sure you'd be stunned to find out that a really rich guy supported this shocking stuff. Anyways, thank you everyone for watching. Stop buying their stuff. Yeah, exactly. Advertising, yeah, just stop buying their stuff. Why is I know, look at how they're like seat at the table. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, this is literally I like that the comment section is kind of like they're confusing socialism with utopia. Yeah, exactly. No, that's accurate. Please don't show this to your kids, Robin. How can you stop if it's the only? Yeah, how can you stop buying billionaires if it's the only stuff on the market? Exactly, exactly, exactly. See, people are coming through in the comments section. Anyways, thank you. I do that at the end of every video because I'm always fascinated to see what people think because it gives me an insight into what kind of things might be going on. Anyways, thank you everyone for watching. Hope you enjoy, and I'll see you again soon.